Welcome to this training class on the NEC SV8100 UC Desktop Suite. The UC Desktop Suite is the conduit connecting your telephone, your PC, and your smartphone. This training class is intended to show you how some of the more popular features work and how to configure them. It does not cover everything UC Desktop can do. This application is very feature-rich, and covering everything could take hours. Like other applications you use, some trial or experimentation on your part will be necessary to configure the application to work as you expect it. For more information on the UC Desktop Suite, I suggest you look at the help file while the application is running. This is an excellent resource. Except for the first few minutes, this is an all-live demonstration. Let's start out with the two different ways you can run the UC Desktop Suite and see why someone would want to run it in either mode. We'll look at Outlook integration. UC Desktop Suite integrates with other CRM packages, but Outlook is the most popular. If your installation includes integrating to another CRM, use this as a guide to show you how things might work with your CRM. I'll show you how to do a screen pop, transferring a call out of Outlook, and dialing out of Outlook. I'll go into Outlook and show you what you need to do to enable the integration. Then we'll look at Presence, the virtual in and out board. I'll show you how to set your presence, others' presence, and how to set your presence from your smartphone, and show you how to set your presence in Outlook. Moving on, we'll look at call handling. What states are shown on the busy lamp field? How to answer and transfer a call. We'll look at the features available when you right-click on a user's busy lamp field. I'll show you how easy it is to set up a conference call. One of my favorite sections is nonverbal communication and different ways to message others. And finally, we'll look at configuration settings, as well as setting up the extension directory, the shared directory, your personal directory, and how that all relates to the speed dial tab. So let's get on to the live demo. Before I show you how to change your UC Desktop Suite, let me show you how you can save your current configuration, so if you ever need to go back to it, it's just a couple mouse clicks away. And when you're done making all your changes, I suggest you save that as a different profile, so you have both if you ever need them. You go to Tools, Profiles, click Save, and enter a name. These are all shared, so pick a unique profile name. If you ever need to go back to an old profile, highlight it and click Apply. It's that easy. So now let's get started. Well, let's take a look at the toolbar versus the window mode of the UC Desktop Suite. You're currently looking at the window mode. In this view, starting at the top, you have an area where you can change your presence. So if you're going to log in and out of the office, this is an easy way to get to where you would want to change your presence. You have a toolbar of features where you can put up to 40 different features on this toolbar. Now if you have more than what will fit in that white space, you'll get two little arrows that point down on the right hand side, and clicking on that will bring up the additional features that you've assigned to the toolbar. You have an active call area as well as an unanswered call area, and when I send calls into the system you'll see where they appear. In the center of the screen you have your busy lamp field as well as your presence status, and this is really the major difference between the toolbar and the window view. In this area you can see who's in the office, who's out of the office. If you hover over their presence icon, you'll get more information about where they are if they're out of the office or out to lunch. You can set up tabs so that if you're only interested in a subset of the users on the phone system, you can view that set. Now this is the toolbar view. Here you can run this as a toolbar at either the top or the bottom of the screen, and there's a setting so that you can have it auto hide if you want. So in this view you have your same toolbar, the ability to log in and out of the office. You have access to a company directory and the last 20 numbers that you've dialed. In this view, an unanswered call ringing the telephone will cause this balloon to pop, giving you information about the call before you answer it. To answer the call, just press the handset. Once you've answered the call, that same button becomes your hang up button. So if you want to hang up from the call, it's just a simple matter of clicking on it. Now most people do like to run the application in this window view because that gives you a lot of information about your coworkers. And it's very easy to switch back and forth just by clicking on View, going to Toolbar, and once you're in the toolbar, if you want to go back to the window view, just right click, go to View, and choose Standard Window. So that's the difference between the toolbar view and the window view. Moving on, we're going to take a look at the Outlook integration that you get with UC Desktop Suite, specifically for call handling. As Morgan gets a call, she can see that Randy is calling her from Northwoods Products. Even before she answered the call, she knew who was calling, could take a look at the notes section, and pretty much had an idea what this call was going to be about before she even picked up her handset. The reason that Randy's contact record did a screen pop is because of the number that he was dialing from. So now, with Randy on the line, let's send him to somebody else. Let's send him to Ann. To transfer a call from within Outlook, just highlight the contact record you want to transfer the call to. Now if you notice, there's a new toolbar that's been added. There is a button to initiate a dial, a button to transfer, and a button to do a conference. Since we want to send Randy over to Ann, we're going to press the middle button for transfer. Here you can see the 3 numbers that are in her contact record. We could send it to her home number, her mobile phone, or to her extension. Since we know that Ann is in the office, we're going to send this call to Ann's office extension number. So I just left mouse click. Now had I picked the wrong person, I could cancel this action. If I wanted to send the call directly to Ann's phone and be done with it, I would do a blind transfer. But since I want to introduce Randy to Ann, I'm going to do a supervised transfer, and I'll click on the Start button here. That puts Randy on hold and opens up an intercom channel to Ann. Now if Ann was too busy to talk to him, I could press this disconnect button and disconnect the call, but since she wants to talk to Randy, I'll press the complete button and the call will be transferred. Now let's say I wanted to call John here. All I'd have to do is highlight his contact record and click the leftmost button, which is the dial button. The phone numbers that are available to me will come up, and all I have to do to dial the number is to click on it. My phone's going off hook and the call is dialing. So let's take a look at what you have to do to get your Outlook and desktop talking to each other. Go to Tools, UC Desktop Suite Telephony Settings. Make sure it's enabled. If you want to automatically start your UC Desktop Suite when Outlook opens, check this box here. Then you have a choice as to when you'll get screen pops. Be sure and choose your Contacts folder. And then you can choose whether or not you want to have a screen pop for all calls or just external calls like I have. Click Save, and that's all there is to it. So now let's take a look at Presence, or as I like to call it, the virtual in and out board of the UC Desktop Suite. Presence gives you the ability to notify other users that you're in the office or out of the office, and if out of the office, when you're going to return. Likewise, you can view other employees' presence to see if they're in the office or out of the office, and at what time they're going to be returning. The Presence icon is displayed on the left side of the person's busy lamp button. So for example, Joe Potter is using the In the Office icon, and if you hover over that icon, you see that he's in the office. Now let's take a look at Garrett Nyman. Garrett has the Out of the Office icon, and when you hover over his, you see that he's out of the office, delivering a proposal to Acme Widgets. He'll be returning around 4 p.m. and that he left a note to call his cell if it's urgent. Darlene, with the hamburger, is out to lunch. She'll be returning approximately 3 o'clock. Lloyd, with the multi-person icon, is in a meeting until 3:30. And over here, Owen, with the vacation umbrella, is on vacation. He's at the Eagle River Cranberry Festival, and he'll be returning on Monday at 8 a.m. So how do you keep your presence up to date? Well, if you're going to change your presence, the easiest way to do it is to go up to the upper left-hand corner here and click the down arrow. Let's say Morgan is going out to lunch. She would just mouse click out to lunch. She could put in a subject, a location. She could change her presence to something else, but she's going out to lunch. And note that the phone settings is set to forward to voicemail. That's because the last time Morgan went out to lunch, she forwarded her phone to voicemail. So if you generally always change your phone settings to your present state, that will automatically be done for you. Your expected return date and return time can be modified, and when you have it set the way you want it, you click OK. Now, everybody can see that Morgan is out to lunch. You see the right side of her busy lamp button is blue, which means her telephone is forwarded. And if you hover over the hamburger icon, you'll see that she's out to lunch, she'll be returning at 3, and that her phone is forwarded to voicemail. So let's say when Morgan comes back from lunch, she's not going back to her office, but she's going to be in the building, and she wants everybody to know that she is in the office. She can go up to anybody who has the rights to change others' presence and ask for them to change her presence. They would do that by right-clicking on Morgan's busy lamp button here, going to Set Presence, and choose In the Office. Note how the phone settings go back to Do Not Forward because that's Morgan's general way of setting her telephone when she's in the office. That user clicks OK, and Morgan is back in the office. Now Morgan could change her presence by herself. She doesn't really have to have somebody else change her presence. That is, if Morgan uses a smartphone. Now since you can't see my smartphone, I'm going to run the Mobile Presence application in Internet Explorer and display it on my screen. Here you can see that Morgan is out to lunch. Well, let's say Morgan has decided she's not going to come back to the office after lunch and she's going to be gone for the day. Morgan would touch her name. She can choose her presence, which would be gone for the day. Let's say she's going to keep her forwarding to voicemail. And let's say she's going to return on the 2nd at 8 a.m. Morgan clicks Submit, and her presence changes to gone for the day. Now, if you note, there is a little bit of a lag between the web application and the desktop, but you can see the desktop caught up in just a few seconds. And now everybody knows that Morgan is gone for the day, and she'll be returning at 8 a.m. tomorrow, and her phone is forwarded to voicemail. Now let's say Morgan needs to get some information about coworkers. Let's say she wants to call Darlene. From her smartphone, she can press Directory, and she can see that Darlene is out to lunch by the small hamburger icon to the left of her name. If Morgan touches Darlene's name, she comes to this contact screen, and she can see that she's out to lunch, her phone is not forwarded, and that Darlene is expected to return at 3 p.m. Morgan could touch either one of the alternate numbers, and the cell phone would offer to dial those calls from her cell phone. Well, there's another way that you can set your presence, and that's to do it for a future event and tie it in with your calendar in Outlook. So let's say that Morgan is going to go on a site visit tomorrow to Acme Widgets. She goes into her Outlook calendar, enters information, and let's say she's going to be gone from 8 until 9:30. Now, if this were a private meeting that she was going to be attending, and she didn't want that to be published to the UC Desktop presence, she could click Save and Close here, and it would be strictly an Outlook calendar event. But since this is company business, Morgan wants to let everybody know where she is and when she'll be back. So she goes and clicks the Set Presence button. This form pulls all the information already entered in the Outlook calendar. All Morgan has to do is choose her presence, which is out of the office. Let's say she wants to forward her telephone to her mobile phone. It already knows that she's going to be out from 8 until 9:30. I could set a presence change for what happens after 9:30. Let's say that's the only call that Morgan is going to make for the day, so she wants to let everybody know at 9:30 that she's gone for the day and that her phone is going to forward to voicemail. Now, when you click OK, these two events are married. We have our calendar event and we have our presence event. Click Save and Close, and neither Outlook nor the desktop need to be open tomorrow for this event to happen. Well, those are the many different ways that you can set your presence, view others' presence, change others' presence, change your presence from a smartphone, or change your presence when you're setting up an Outlook calendar event. Let's take a look at the Busy Lamp field. Now, the Busy Lamp field is a component of shared services, so unless your installation has shared services installed, you will see something quite different. The Busy Lamp component of the UC Desktop Suite is the area to the right of the user's name or extension number. So if you take a look at the right side of Charlie Nyman's Busy Lamp button, you see that it is lit blue. That's because Charlie has his phone in call forwarding. If you notice the right side of Ann's busy lamp button, that's red, which means that Ann is in Do Not Disturb. If Ann goes off hook to make a phone call, it will change to green, showing that she is in an off-hook state. When she hangs up, the indication will go back to Do Not Disturb. Let's answer and transfer a few calls with the UC Desktop Suite. Now, any call that makes Morgan's telephone ring will also appear as an unanswered call in Morgan's UC Desktop Suite. Morgan could be the attendant, or maybe this is a call that's been transferred from somebody to Morgan. Whenever Morgan's phone is ringing, her UC Desktop will also present that call. Here you can see that there is a call ringing in the unanswered area of the UC Desktop. Morgan could answer this call by left mouse clicking on it like I just did, or she could have pressed the answer button, which is currently grayed out because Morgan does not have an unanswered call to answer at this point in time. She could have also pressed F1 on her keyboard, or she could have picked up her handset to answer the call. No matter how Morgan answers that call, it will appear as the active call in her UC Desktop. If Morgan wants to transfer that call, let's say to Ann, all she has to do is left mouse click and drag it onto Ann's busy lamp button. That will put the active caller on hold and start an intercom call to Ann. When Ann answers, Morgan can announce who the caller is, and if Ann declines to take the call, Morgan can press the disconnect button, which will drop Ann off the call and return her to her outside caller. If Ann accepts the call, Morgan just has to press the complete button and the call's been transferred. Now if you're an organization that does not screen calls, I can make this a quick and smooth procedure. I answer, drag it onto the person you want to transfer the call to, and press complete and the call's gone. Having your desktop set up this way allows you to screen calls or to send them through as a blind transfer with just the click of a button. If you never screen calls, you can remove that middle step by going to Shortcuts and choose Immediate Blind Transfer. There are many options available to you when you right-click on someone's BLF button, especially if you're on a call. For example, let's say Morgan takes a phone call from the flower shop. And let's say this call is for Ann, and just before Morgan took the call, Ann walked up to Morgan and said, "I'm running out to my car to get a file. I have my cell phone. If the flower shop calls, I really need to talk to them. Send them to my cell phone. Don't send them to my voicemail. Don't let them hang up, and don't send them to anybody else." So now Morgan has the flower shop on the phone, and she needs to send that call to Ann's cell phone. Well, this is very easy to do when you have the UC Desktop. Simply right-click on Ann's busy lamp button, go to Transfer Alternate, and hover over the mobile number and left mouse click, and the flower shop will be transferred to Ann's mobile phone. If the instructions were to send it to Ann's home number, a left mouse click here would send it to Ann's home number. Now in the directory, which I'll show you later, you can go in and have many different numbers in this alternate area, and you're not limited to just 2 numbers. Well, let's say that the flower shop was not the call that Ann was expecting, and Morgan knows that Ann's out by her car, so she can offer to put the flower shop into Ann's voicemail, and if she were to left mouse click right now, the flower shop would go directly to Ann's voicemail and not ring her phone several times. One of the other features of right-click is the integration with email. Here, if I want to send Ann an email, all I have to do is right-click on her BLF and click the email button. Immediately, my email client opens with an email addressed to Ann. This makes sending an email very quick. Now, to set up your application to work with your email client, and here I'm using Outlook, you can use any MAPI compatible email client. The way you configure it is go into Tools, Preferences, General, and click Enable Email Integration. Setting up a conference call couldn't be easier. So let's say Morgan takes a call for the flower shop and she wants to get Ann in on that conversation. All she has to do is right-click on Ann's Busy Lamp button and choose Conference. That puts the outside caller on hold and creates an intercom call to Ann. When Ann answers, Morgan can inform her that she would like to add her into a conference call with the flower shop. If Ann is too busy and declines, Morgan can press the disconnect button and drop Ann off, or if Ann accepts, she can press complete, and now Morgan, the flower shop, and Ann are on a conference call. If Morgan wants to drop off, she can, and Ann will stay in the call with the flower shop. Let's take a look at a couple of the ways you can communicate non-verbally using the UC desktop. Now, if you note, extension 101, Charlie, has got a different color to his extension number and his name. That's because Charlie is running his UC desktop. So when you see somebody with that color, you know that you can communicate with them via messaging. To send somebody an instant message, all you have to do is right-click on their Busy Lamp button and go to Instant Message. Let's say Charlie is the supervisor of the ACD queue that I'm working in, and I have a problem caller on the line. So I'm going to send the message, "I need your help." Charlie replies, "I'll listen in." And I send back thanks. So after Charlie's had a few moments to listen to the call, he's going to send me a couple of ideas on how to handle this caller. And I'll let Charlie know that I like that idea. Now when you're done with an instant message, you have the option of saving this chat session. So if you'd like to save it, just click yes. Otherwise, if you don't need it, click no, and the message is discarded. Now if you want to change how the instant message client operates, you do that under Tools, Preferences, and Instant Message. So you have General Settings, you have the option to auto-save and where to auto-save each IM session. They're saved as a standard text file, so you can open them with WordPad, Word, or even Notepad. You have the ability to display the history and how you want to be notified. Now let's say you want to message Ann, and you can see Ann's not running her desktop client. Well, you do have another option. If you right-click on Ann's Busy Lamp button, you see here we have the option of a phone message. A phone message will allow you to send a message to the LCD display of a user, multiple users, or groups. I'm going to send this message just to Ann, and I want to let her know that Bill is on the line. Now you can modify these canned messages, and I'll show you where you go in to do that after I've sent this message. What will happen when I press send? Ann's phone will ring one ring cycle, her message lamp will flash bright green, the LCD display of her telephone is going to change to caller Bill, and then the soft keys, those buttons that are directly underneath the LCD display are going to remap to Send, Park, VM for voicemail, or MSG for message. So let's send that message. I'm sitting close to Ann's phone, so I'm not sure if you heard that or not. Her phone rang in the background, and I'm looking at her phone, and it says Caller Bill, and she wants to send Bill to voicemail, so she presses the VM button. I got a tone back. I'm wearing a headset, so I'm not sure if you heard that or not, but I also can see what her response is, so I know I should send Bill to Ann's voicemail. So to change those messages or set up new messages, you'd do that under the Phone Message tab. Here you can go in and create new ones, delete old ones, and you can create responses to go along with those messages. Nonverbal communications is an important part of communicating in an office, and the UC Desktop Suite helps you communicate very effectively. Now let's take a look at how to set the desktop suite up to operate exactly the way you want it. Settings are found under Tools, Preferences. In the General tab, this is where you can set your application priority, email integration, ringing through speakers, whether you have to confirm exit, and whether or not you want to be able to enable quick message and enable a tone. The BLF DSS tab is where you set up your tabs, whether or not you want to show extension, name, or name and extension, whether you get the names from the phone system or the directory. You can turn on and off calling line ID display on the mouse hover. You can choose large or small buttons, and you can turn on and off the animation for present state changes. Next, I'm going to jump to Tool Buttons. Here's where you assign the buttons that appear in your toolbar. Simply check the ones that you want and uncheck the ones you don't want, and you can change the order in which they appear. Here you can tell the application when to remove a quick message or a phone message if there's no response or after a response. If you're not using Outlook and you're using one of the other supported contact managers, this is where you would set it up. The Shortcut tab is where you would set up whether you want to do a supervised transfer or a blind transfer, what happens when you click on a busy extension, how to set up a shortcut in your chat session. In the highlighted dialing shortcut, I recommend that you uncheck the automatically initiate dialing. Highlighted dialing allows you to highlight a number in any Windows application, and when you press Control-C, you'll dial that number. Sometimes, if you're working in a spreadsheet, for example, you may not want to have that feature turned on, and Control F12 by default will turn that on or off. Under telephony features, you generally will not have to go in and make changes under this tab. The voicemail tab is where you set up your voicemail features. Notification settings allow you to change the way you're notified for different types of alerts and messages. The Instant Message tab allows you to go in and set up the Instant Message client to operate the way you want it to operate. For example, font size, autosave, and whether or not you want to be notified for new messages. Phone messages we covered earlier. These are the most common tabs that as a user you'll want to go in and make modifications to set the application up to your liking. So let's take a look now at the directories. In order to modify directories, you have to be given rights to do so. There are 3 directories. There is the telephone extension directory, and if you want to go in and make any changes, simply highlight the extension you want to modify and click on Properties. There is a Contacts directory which is shared amongst all users. Again, to modify one, highlight it and click Properties. You also have a personal directory. If you want to add a new entry, click the New and choose New Entry and fill out the form. If you want to make any changes to an existing contact, highlight it and click Properties. If you have Outlook contacts and you want to add them to your personal directory, it's very easy. Highlight the contact that you want to send to your personal directory, right-click, and click NEC Add to Speed Dial. They're now added to your personal directory, and they're also added to the speed dial button. So now that you've had an opportunity to take a look at how the desktop application operates and how to modify it, I suggest that you take some time, set up the tabs the exact way you want them, and set up the desktop suite to operate the way you want it to operate. And thanks for watching this video.